Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Inside Legends. Today is Wednesday, January 28th, 2026, and today we're going to be talking about this news out of Virginia that is not too great for the Democratic Party going into the 2026 midterms. This is a setback just for the 2026 midterms. This will have no effect after then, but this is a setback for the midterms for the Democratic Party. So what is happening in Virginia is actually tonight, I'm recording this on January 27th, but I'm uploading this tomorrow, January 28th. But so I guess today, 3 hours ago, a Virginia Circuit Court ruled that Democrats redistricting in the state of Virginia cannot go to the voters. They cannot be implemented until 2027. The reason this is because Virginia has a law in the state constitution that to open up a special session to redistrict mid-decade in the state of Virginia, not on cycle. Of course, they'll be able to redistrict in 2030, but to redistrict on cycle, Democrats have to open a special session once before an election in Virginia and once after an election in Virginia. And they need to pass an amendment through the Virginia House of Delegates to bring it to the voters to put on a referendum for Virginia to repeal the congressional maps and gerrymandering for the Democratic Party to counteract Republican gerrymandering nationwide. And the reason this is being struck down, not exactly struck down, but a court in Virginia has ruled that Democrats cannot do this until after 2027. And they're arguing that because now, yes, Democrats have passed the amendment that they're required to pass before an election and after election. They have done that. They passed this amendment before the 2025 elections in the state of Virginia, and they passed them after the 2025 elections in the state of Virginia. They did legally pass this. However, this court is a court stemming from a deep red district. Donald Trump won the district by 70%. It is 84-15 district. It is extremely conservative. However, no matter who rules on it, unless it gets repealed to the Supreme Court, which Democrats are going to do. I will add that this is not the end all be all. Democrats are going to appeal this to the Virginia Supreme Court. I'll get to why that matters in a second. But it doesn't matter if this ruling comes from an R+70 district or a D+70 district. It still stands, and it has to go through the same process no matter the state's affiliation. Well, in Virginia, of course. In other states, it wouldn't matter because, in Republican states, it wouldn't matter because they don't have to go through this process of asking their voters to redistrict. They just go above the voters' heads to redistrict. Democrats, because of their state government, they have to ask the voters to redistrict, and that's what's getting struck down. And the reason this is being struck down is because Republicans are arguing that when Democrats first passed this amendment before an election, like they had to, they passed it after early voting had started. So Republicans are arguing that because early voting had started, the election had already happened. Therefore, this special session was invalid, and Democrats have to wait to reopen another special session after another election in Virginia, which will be 2026. So they're arguing that Democrats shouldn't be able to bring this initiative to their voters to redistrict Virginia until after the 2026 midterms, which would be in 2027. And no matter what the legality of this is, it doesn't exactly matter because this ruling still stands. It has to get appealed for it to be overturned. And to appeal it, you could say, well, they're going to the Supreme Court. Virginia's a blue state. It's going to get repealed. That's what I thought at first. Actually, before I researched to do this video, I thought it would be a nothing ball. I thought that Democrats would just strike it down the Supreme Court because they did pass this before an election. Early voting is not when an election starts. The 2024 election did not happen in October. Just like this, the Virginia 2025 election did not happen in September or October whenever early voting did start. It happened in November. So no matter the legality of this, it still has to be appealed. And to appeal to the Supreme Court in Virginia, it's a Republican controlled Supreme Court, not Republican courts. The court is quote unquote nonpartisan, but they all have their political leanings. And Virginia only has 7 Supreme Court justices, and what makes this bad for the Democratic Party is that the former governor, Republican governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, appointed 5 of them, and he appointed 5 conservative justices. This is a overwhelmingly controlled conservative Supreme Court. So even if Democrats appeal this to the Supreme Court, now there's a chance. I'm not saying there's no chance. This is not dead. It's just a major setback for the Democratic Party. It's not dead yet. This Supreme Court can still rule in favor of the Democratic Party because I'm no legal expert, but Democrats did pass this resolution before an election, and they passed it once after an election. Early voting is not when an election occurs. The election occurs on election day. So it depends, are these Supreme Court justices going to rule in favor of the Democrats and what's legal, or are they going to rule in favor of the Republicans to net them 5 seats ahead of the 2026 midterms? The reason I say 5 seats is because this is the split of, actually, let me clear this. The whole redistricting war started, I've done this a million times, but you've probably seen it a million times too. It started in Texas when Republicans redistricted to give Republicans 5 seats in the state of Texas. Then they did the same thing in Missouri to net them another seat, and one in North Carolina to net them 7 total seats. Democrats fought back. They redistricted, they went to the voters in the state of California and said, okay, let's redistrict. So they did. They redistricted and got Democrats 7 seats. And then 2 court cases, one in Utah that gives Democrats a safe seat, and one in New York that flips a seat from Republicans to Democrats. So right now, as it currently stands, this is the state of the redistricting war. Right now, it's 7-7. It is fair. No party is coming ahead in gerrymandering. But with this news out of Virginia, the reason this is so important is because Virginia was doing this in response to Florida, who is going to redistrict later this year to redistrict for the Republican Party and net them 3 to 5 seats. And knowing Ron DeSantis, knowing Republicans, they're going to go for that 5 seats. So this map that's right now 7-7, Republicans are going to net themselves 5 seats in the state of Florida, which brings the redistricting total from 7 to 12. Democrats were going to fight back by redistricting Republican seats in response in the state of Virginia to make it 11 to 12, which they can recover from a 1-seat deficit in the midterms easily. But without Virginia, that's a 5-seat deficit. That is a 10-seat deficit, because 5 away from the Democrats, 5 to the Republicans. A 10-seat deficit could, and I'm not saying it will, but it could decide the House majority for the Democrats. If they're redistricted in Virginia and got these seats, like I said, they'd only be at a 1 deficit. They could recover. They could easily win the House majority. But without it, there's a chance, if the House is closer in 2026 than we imagine, than polls are saying, than elections are saying, there's a chance Democrats could lose the House of Representatives because of this. Simply put. And while this is not dead, this, like I said before, this redistricting push is not dead, because in almost all likelihood, I guess it sort of depends on what's on your point of view, but in all likelihood, this is legal. Democrats can legally do this because, I mean, Democrats did pass this resolution before an election and after an election. But since this court ruled as such that they didn't pass it before an election when they did, it's going to go to the Virginia Supreme Court, which is controlled by Republicans, who might rule in the favor of Republicans, even though Democrats are in the right. We just don't know how this political climate is going to shape and what is going to happen because of this. Okay, that's kind of enough of this news. I don't have too much more to add to this. What are your thoughts on this news? Do you think Democrats are in the right to redistrict based on the legal parameters of the state of Virginia? Do you think Republicans are in the right? What are your thoughts on this news? If you liked this video, I encourage you to like this video. I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I upload election news every single day. I turn notifications so you can see this when I upload every single day at 1 p.m. Central Time. And yeah, hope you have a great day.